Chapter 241, Moving Problems. Zhang Shi smiled. Xiao, your mother has told me about an affair between you and your uncle. Grandma doesn't blame you. Shangguan, he indeed has changed. Do you know what your grandpa hoped the most before dying? What? Tang Xiu's smile slowly disappeared as he asked in a low voice. He hoped for Shangguan to go bankrupt, said Zhang Shi as she sighed. Puzzled, Tang Xiu's brows raised. Why? His disposition was good, he was gentle and polite to anyone when he had no money back then. But after he got rich, he offended the young and the elderly in the village. Furthermore, he hasn't visited the village for 3 years. Your mother and you must have endured a lot of pain all these years in Star City. But he... Oh. Upon hearing it, Tang Xiu's heart warmed. However, he keenly felt his grandmother's bitter feelings. After all, Su Shangguan was her biological son, how would she not want her son to be good? After pondering for a short moment, Tang Xiu slowly said, Grandma, let him stay in prison for a few years. When he's been wedded sufficiently, able to turn a new leaf and become more humane, I'll think of ways to get him out. Zhang Shi's eyes suffused with excitement and silently nodded. Tang Xiu spoke again, Grandma, after I heal your legs, how about you come to Star City to live with us? Our family's living conditions have gotten a lot better. Mom opened a restaurant and her business is very good. Although I just graduated and finished my CET, I also run some businesses and make a lot of money. You should come with us to enjoy your life in the future. Zhang Shi laughed. Xiu, Grandma thanks you for your filial piety. But Grandma has to decline. My body is already half buried in the grave. If I were to go, wouldn't I become more trouble for you? Let's forget it. I've lived here for a lifetime, I'll live here until the end of my days. Why should I toss myself blindly? Tang Xiu said, Grandma, you still have me and you can still live quite long. Relax. Just come with us to Star City. You won't trouble us. I myself have to go to study in Shanghai soon, so Mom will live alone there. If you go with us, you can also accompany her. This, with a bit of hesitation, Zhang Shi looked at Su Lingyun who was full of anticipation all over her face. Su Lingyun quickly said, Mom, I really don't feel relieved leaving you here alone. Please listen to Xiu. Come with us to Star City. We mother and daughter can live together. Our conditions weren't good in the past, but now it's better. We also have a big villa and a big restaurant. Xiu also has a big company there. Zhang Shi took a deep breath. She shook her head, Little Yun, Xiu. Don't urge me. I've been living here for years. I won't get used to it if I change the environment all of a sudden. Our village's neighbors are good to me and they usually take care of the things when I got them. You take care of your life, you don't need to worry about me. Su Lingyun's expression turned grim. She knew her mother's disposition very well. Once she made a decision, she probably wouldn't change her mind even if her argument was solid. Tang Xiu thought for a moment and said, Grandma, since you really don't want to go to Star City, you can stay here, but we should repair this house. I'll take some money to rebuild the house. Furthermore, I'll hire 2 nannies in Star City to stay here to accompany and look after of you. Zhang Shi waved her hand, no. I live here, there's no need to rebuild the house. It will take a lot of money. Besides, I'm just a poor old lady, why would I need nannies to serve me? Although I'm old, my legs are still fast. I don't need people to take care of me. Standing on the side, an astonished expression suffused in Chen Huiying's eyes as she asked, Lingyun, was what you said just now true? Your restaurant is flourishing, you live in a big villa and Tang Xiu also has a company? Nodding, Su Lingyun said, I'm telling the truth. The business has been good for the last 2 months. As for the villa and the company, it's Xiu's hard work. Chen Huiying's expression when she looked at Tang Xiu was suddenly different. She recalled the car Tang Xiu used and felt that Su Lingyun didn't lie to her. Suddenly, Tang Xiu's eyes turned bright. He looked at Chen Huiying and asked, "Second aunt, can we have a chat outside?" Chen Huiying replied with a confused expression, "Chat outside? Why do you want to chat outside? If you want to tell me something, you can speak it here." No, Tang Xiu shook his head. "I need to tell you something private. I also told Big Brother Ben that I want to buy the herbs he collected. A special kind of grass was mixed with the grasses your family feed the sheep. This kind of grass is actually a very good medicinal herb." Chen Huiying hesitated for a moment. She then nodded and said, "All right, then let's talk outside." The two went to the courtyard. Then, Tang Xiu spoke, "Second aunt, about that medicinal herb, I have already told Big Brother Ben. The grass is called silver dragon grass. It's 1,000 yuan each. I'll buy them from you for any amount you sell me. But the reason I want to talk to you here outside is something else." Chen Huiying knew nothing about medicinal herbs, so she didn't ask. Then, she replied, "Okay. Tell me." "Second aunt, you two know about Grandma's disposition. Since she doesn't want to come with us to Star City, would you please look after her later?" said Tang Xiu. Chen Huiying involuntarily laughed, saying, "What are you talking about, kid? If we didn't care about her, would we even take her to the county hospital? Don't worry, kiddo. With us here, your grandma won't have any trouble." Tang Xiu shook his head. "I didn't mean it like that, second aunt. So to speak, how much money do you make from farming annually?" "Huh?" Chen Huiying was puzzled. "Why are you asking about this?" Tang Xiu said, "You'll know it later, please answer me first." Chen Huiying hesitated for a moment. She silently calculated it. Then, she stretched out a finger and said, "Should be around 10,000 yuan? I have a lot of sheep and my family also have some fruit trees." Tang Xiu laughed, "What if I hire you to take care of Grandma and give you 20,000 yuan annually? Are you willing?" Chen Huiying knitted her brows. "Tang Xiu, why are you speaking such nonsense? Even if you don't give me a dime, I'll still take care of Auntie." "All right. I know what you meant. I assure you that as long as I can walk and stay healthy, I won't let your grandma suffer hardships." Tang Xiu raised his thumb up, saying, "Auntie, you're a good person. If you don't want to ask for money, I won't insist. But firstly, I'll still have to thank you." Chen Huiying patted Tang Xiu's underarm as she smiled and cursed, "Little bastard, you're like seeing me as an outsider." "Second aunt, could you give me your bank account number?" asked Tang Xiu. Chen Huiying stared blankly. Then, her face immediately turned cold and angrily said, "Tang Xiu, what's the matter with you? Do you see your second aunt as someone greedy for money? If you do this again, I won't care about your grandmother later." Tang Xiu quickly said, "Second aunt, that's not what I meant. Asking your bank account number is indeed that I want to send you money. But it's not for you, it's for Grandma. Please think. Wouldn't you have to spend money on either her clothes, food and some other matters when you take care of her? I want to transfer 100,000 yuan to you to buy more clothes for Grandma and for the food she wants to eat. When the money has been spent, you can call me and I'll send more money." 100,000 yuan? Chen Huiying's heartbeat accelerated. But after several seconds, she shook her head and said, "Tang Xiu, I really don't want this money. Otherwise, everyone in our village will point at my back and scold me. As for her welfare, you don't need to worry. Our family won't let your grandma suffer hunger and cold. I give you my word, your second aunt will take care of your grandma's welfare." Tang Xiu forced out a smile. After hesitating for a moment, he then said with a helpless expression, "Since second aunt really doesn't want the money, then let's forget it. But you have to let Big Brother Ben go with me." "Go with you? Didn't you say you'll go study in Shanghai soon? Little Ben only knows how to farm and build houses. What would he do there?" Puzzled, Chen Huiying asked. Tang Xiu said, I'll arrange a decent work and good salary for him. If he works diligently and earnestly, I assure you that he will have the money to buy a house in Star City within several years. I think you also hope for Big Brother Ben to be successful and get out of our small village, don't you? Chen Huiying's eyes turned bright. Tang Xiu's words truly represented what was inside her heart. Her family didn't have much money and her son was unskilled. It was the reason for him not marrying since they couldn't afford to build a new house. When she saw the other youngsters of the same age, they all live in new houses, are married, and even had children several years old. This was also the cause of her unceasing worries. Tang Xiu, can you really arrange a job for little Ben that has a decent income? Asked Chen Huiying. She was somewhat unconvinced. Don't worry, second auntie. As long as he works hard, he will certainly make a lot of money in the future. But I'll take him to work in my company. It won't be a problem to give him a wage of nearly 10,000 yuan a month. Chen Huiying clapped and said with excitement, all right then. I'll have to thank you for it. And I'll certainly take a good care of your grandmother. I'll regard her as my mother-in-law and take care of her. Tang Xiu finally felt relieved upon hearing Chen Huiying's promise. He then said with a smile, second aunt, you must never tell others about our conversation, including Big Brother Ben. Chen Huiying nodded heavily, don't worry about it. I'll keep it rotten in my stomach. Tang Xiu, I got them. As they finished chatting, Su Ben rushed in a hurry toward them. He also raised a small box in his hand as he shouted. Behind him, the village chief, carrying his over 70-years-old body, Su Chonghe slightly ran to follow him. Chapter 242, Mysterious Medical Skill. Su Chonghe had high prestige in Su village. These years, he led the locals in planting fruit trees, growing grains, and was the first to help any families that had problems or difficulties. He always lent a hand without complaining or regrets. Even his son, the current chief of the Su village, admired him endlessly and was very filial. Xiu, do you remember me? Su Chonghe was a gentle person. The wrinkles on his face immediately stretched upon seeing Tang Xiu, a thick smile blossoming on his old face. Tang Xiu laughed, the old village chief grandpa. Heartily laughing, Su Chonghe replied. Not bad, you've grown up into an adult. Hasn't it been 2 years since you last came back? And you look taller now. Indeed. I haven't come back for nearly 2 years. If not for the accident I had before, perhaps I would have come back earlier, said Tang Xiu. Su Chonghe nodded, even though you're not surnamed Su, but you're the child of our Su family village. I just heard from little Ben that you brought your grandma back to treat her wounds yourself. Tang Xiu, treating an old person's broken leg isn't a minor matter. It would be fatal if your treatment isn't good. Do you have confidence? Tang Xiu assertively said, I'm confident, old village chief grandpa. I've been acting as an on-duty doctor at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital recently, and I can also be considered as a doctor now. Su Change was shocked, you're working at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? That's not right. You should only be a high schooler now, and just attend CET this year. How would? Tang Xiu smiled, old village chief grandpa, your memory is pretty good. It's true that I really just finished my CET, and you can check my CET scores by dawn. As for the why I'm giving medical services at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, the hospital's president was the one who invited me. At the side, Su Ben suddenly spoke, Tang Xiu, you know someone with authority in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? The other wounded from our village were sent to Star City. Just when I got to the old village chief grandpa's house, Jansi called me saying that they had just arrived at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, but... Tang Xiu knitted his brows, but what? Su Ben forced out a smile, they heard that a divine doctor emerged there recently, and caused a large number of patients across the province to flock to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. There are indeed doctors on duty now, but no wards available. Tang Xiu took his mobile and dialed a number. "Hello, master?" Dai Xinyue's voice came out of the phone. It seemed very chaotic there, as it was pretty noisy. "Are you in the hospital?" asked Tang Xiu. "Yes, master. There are too many patients tonight, it's quite busy." "Is there something you need, master?" said Dai Xinyue. "I need you to check if there are 5 injured people surnamed Su from Qinghe County that are waiting for treatment. After you find them, arrange several wards for them." "Master, I don't have that authority," Dai Xinyue hesitated. Tang Xiu smiled, "It's all right. If you can't, go to Sun Wenjing. And if she also can't do it, go directly to Li Hongji. In any case, help me arrange it tonight." "Understood." Dai Xinyue put down her mobile with a distressed expression. Tang Xiu glanced at Su Ben and Su Chonghe, saying, "Please don't worry. I called someone to arrange it, so it should be done quickly. Big Brother Ben, keep contact with them for the updated situation over there. Let's go inside now. I'll treat Grandma." "Let's go inside." Su Change waved and quickly said. The dim light was swaying inside the dilapidated roof of the house. The rope-tied light bulb kept swinging by the wind as light and shadow repeatedly changed. Squatting at Zhang Shi's side, Tang Xiu gently lifted her leg, saying, "Grandma, it will be slightly painful when I treat you, so please bear it for a while. I'll be able to treat your injuries soon." Zhang Shi smiled, "Go on. I can bear it." Tang Xiu nodded. He took the silver needles from the box and quickly sealed the acupoints nearby the broken bone. His fingers rubbed in between the silver needles in a constant rhythm. Soon, the purplish-red swollen area on Zhang Shi's leg turned into purplish-black, the swollen area turning bigger. About half a minute later, Tang Xiu's finger slowly took one silver needle. In a split second, black blood spurted out. After all the silver needles were removed, black blood also spurted out from the areas not pierced by silver needles. "Xiu, this." Su Lingyun's pupils contracted, fear gushing from her eyes. Tang Xiu serenely said, "Her bone is fractured, and the broken pieces pierce the capillaries, resulting in internal congestion. So we must clear up the congestion first." Su Lingyun suddenly understood, her anxiousness a bit relieved. Tang Xiu pinched a silver needle. By the time the black blood stopped flowing, his hands held the broken bone area as he exerted strength on both of his hands, adjusting back to the bone's positions. Controlling his star force, he restored the fractured bones to its previous positions. Tang Xiu also adjusted the 2 granule-sized bone sediments into its original location accurately. "It's painful." Thick sweat overflowed from Zhang Shi's forehead, falling down on her wrinkled face. Tang Xiu's hands were entirely covered with star force. Even though he knew his grandmother had to endure great pain at the moment, Tang Xiu grew a bit uncomfortable. But he repressed it since he had to treat her leg injury. He reduced his strength slowly and used Star Force to seep into his grandmother's leg injury. Star Force could nourish and repair bones and muscles, taking the role of accelerating the healing. A few minutes later, some of the pained expression on Zhang Shi's face disappeared, as the tightened brows of hers eased a lot. After 10 minutes, Zhang Shi looked at Tang Xiu with astonishment. She could only feel a weak pain from her leg now, she couldn't even feel it if she didn't pay attention. Half an hour later, the pained expression on Zhang Shi's face completely disappeared and was replaced with a thick sense of comfort. All the pain in her leg completely disappeared. Instead, it felt cool afterward, along with a feeling of warmth. It was as if her insides were being warmly roasted. After an hour, Tang Xiu loosened his hands and looked at his grandmother. She was sleeping soundly now. Motioning the others into the room to keep silent, he then pulled the quilt over, covering her and hinting at everyone to leave the room. At the courtyard. Su Lingyun asked hastily, Xiao, how your grandma's injury now? Tang Xiu smiled faintly, I've handled it. Grandma will be able to recover in a week. But she probably can't walk around much within this time.
Ah.
Right. We also have to find 2 planks and tie them to her broken leg, lest a secondary fracture happens. Su Lingyun immediately replied, I'll go get it now. Tang Xiu nodded with a smile. He looked to the old village chief, Su Changhe, Chen Huiying and Su Ben as he said, it's late. All of you should take a rest now. We'll chat after dawn. Su Changhe, Chen Huiying and Su Ben didn't move. They stared straight at Tang Xiu with a somewhat disappointed feeling inside. Yet, they were also curious. Chen Huiying, who was someone who couldn't keep the matter in heart, spoke, Tang Xiu, you aren't joking with us, are you? Even for children that grow their bones the fastest, it's impossible to recover from a broken leg in a week, no? It takes at least 100 days for one to recover from serious injuries, but you. Tang Xiu interrupted her and said with a smile, Second aunt, I won't explain how, neither can I change your old ideas. Let's see a week later. I assure you that you'll be surprised. Su Changhe's lower lip twitched, but he eventually didn't speak. He only shook his head and sighed before turning around and leaving. Chen Huiying also shook her head and turned away. Su Ben was silent for a few seconds. His fist gently punched Tang Xiu's chest as he smiled and said, Tang Xiu, I believe in you. You're smart since childhood, and you almost never lie. Since you said you can make your grandma can recover as before, then it will surely happen. The feeling of being trusted was really good. Tang Xiu smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, Are you sleepy now? If not, care to have a chat with me? Su Ben looked at the back of his mother. He then pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and asked, Do you want one? Tang Xiu was silent for a moment before taking it. The years when he was muddle-headed, he also experienced drinking and smoking. He lit it up, taking a deep puff as he then said slowly, Big brother Ben, how about you come with me to Star City? Staring blankly, Su Ben replied with a confused expression, What will I do there? Help and work for me, said Tang Xiu smiling. Pondering for a moment, Su Ben then shook his head and said, Tang Xiu, I know that you're a skilled person, setting up your own company. But I know nothing except farming and building houses. I won't be of any use to you, so forget it. I won't go with you. Tang Xiu smiled, It's not like you can't learn, right? If you're willing to work hard, I promise you that you'll have a very good progress. Big brother Ben, our ancestors are typical peasants who are resigned to their plot of lands, toiling over it with their backs to the sky. They get up early in the morning, living a life from 9 to 5 for every sunrise and sunset for generations. Don't you want to change this predicament? Su Ben hesitated, Then what are you going to arrange for me to work on? You'll become a security guard, said Tang Xiu. A disappointed expression was written on Su Ben's face. He forced out a smile, How much money can a security guard earn? A few villagers, who left the village to work as security guards in Shanghai, only get 5,000 to 6,000 yuan a month. But after subtracting their food expenses, they don't even have 2,000 yuan left for a monthly salary. You are you. If you work hard and can bear hardships, let alone 5 to 6,000 yuan a month, you can earn 50 to 60,000. Su Ben asked with a foolish expression, Where and how would a security guard earn so much money? Tang Xiu smiled, That depends on for who you work for. So let's decide. You come with me to Star City and work as an ordinary security guard. You'll earn 5,000 yuan a month with accommodation and meals included. If your performance after 3 months is good, I'll promote you as security captain. By that time, you'll be paid 10,000 yuan. How is it? I'll do it. Su Ben's eyes lit up as he replied without hesitation. Tang Xiu laughed, All right. We grew up together. Although you're a few years older than me, you and I know each other deeply, so I can feel at ease if you learn some important business secrets. Just leave it to me, I'll do it well. Su Ben laughed. Chapter 243, The Fast Change in Attitude. Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Feeling uneasy inside, Dai Xinyue found the 5 patients from Su Village. After grasping their conditions, she then rushed to the inpatient department director's resting room. Knock, knock. Come in. The inpatient department director's voice came out from the room. Pushing the door, Dai Xinyue entered the room and saw the director seating on a single bed, fixing his coat. You are? The inpatient department's director didn't pay much attention to Dai Xinyue. He just felt that she was somewhat familiar and curiously asked. Director, I'm Dai Xinyue, an intern. There's a little matter that I need to speak to you about, she said. The director was a bit annoyed. He had been busy for a day and night. He had only slept for 2 to 3 hours before being woken up. But he didn't reveal it on his face, nodding, Tell me. Director, 5 patients have just arrived. Although they received medical treatment, they haven't been admitted to their wards. For now, they are staying on the corridor's floor. Might you help arrange them a few wards? Upon hearing it, the inpatient department's director angrily replied, Our hospital is simply too crowded. We don't have enough wards and you still want me to arrange wards for them? Dai Xinyue replied with a low voice, Yes, I want to speak to you about this. Nonsense. The director angrily said, You're also a doctor in our hospital, don't you also know the current situation the hospital is in? You directly looked for your superior, have you learned the hospital's regulations? Everything must be done orderly according to normal procedures. Tell me, from which department are you? Dai Xinyue hesitated, replying in a low voice, I do miscellaneous jobs and assistant work for the outpatient service. Outpatient clinic building? The director's brows raised. He then snorted coldly, saying, Then do your miscellaneous job properly. Don't come looking for me for this kind of matter in the future. Also, tell your superior.
Ah.
Right, who's your superior? Dai Xinyue said bitterly, Tang Shou. Huh? The inpatient department's director cried out, Then tell to this Tang Shou to manage his subordinates well, not bothering me with unimportant matters. His voice came to a halt. As though recalling someone, the anger on his face froze. He then looked at Dai Xinyue and asked. You, who did you just say is your superior? Dai Xinyue said, Tang Shou. He gives medical services in the outpatient clinic building. He came to our hospital recently. Various expressions passed on the inpatient department's director's face. Finally, a trace of a smile was revealed on his face as he said, You're Tang Shou's assistant, yes? What's your name? Dai Xinyue. The director nodded repeatedly, the smile on his face becoming thicker.
Ah.
Right. You're Dai Xinyue. I heard that Tang Shou received an apprentice a few days ago and her name is Dai Xinyue. I never thought that it would be you. So you looked for me because of Tang Shou's order? Dai Xinyue truthfully said, Yes, he ordered me. Those patients seem to be from his hometown. The inpatient department's director immediately stood. He then said with a deep tone, Come with me. I just remembered that our hospital still has 2 other wards that are reserved for acute patients. Since those patients are Tang Shou's distant relatives, then I'll arrange it for them. He wasn't stupid. The present Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's standing couldn't be compared with the past. Either the hospital's or Tang Shou's reputation, it spread out far and wide. Not to mention the large number of patients that came from across the province, even the patients throughout the country also had heard the news about them. Moreover, a few days ago, journalists from the TV station wanted to do an interview. The president knew that Tang Shou was reluctant to be in the limelight, so he declined. Although he was the inpatient department's director and seemed to be getting promotions quickly, he also had his own self-awareness. He was not someone to be compared with Tang Xiu at all. Even the president must be polite toward that young ancestor. He didn't have to recall that Tang Xiu just came to the hospital for less than a week, but the president himself accompanied him on meals for a few times already. 10 minutes later, the patients from Su Village were placed in 2 spacious wards. Temporary wards were added with 3 sick beds each. Even so, the room was still spacious even though there were 7 or 8 villagers from the Su Village plus the patients already inside. All of you stay here. The hospital's leaders have told me that you're exempted from fees and your medical expenses will also be reimbursed. Since you have family members, I won't send nurses to look after you. In short, you can contact me if there's anything you need. I'm the director of this inpatient department, so I'll definitely complete the service. The inpatient department's director spoke, all smiling. The patients and their relatives in the wards showed grateful expressions. But they were also deeply confused and puzzled inwardly. In particular, Su Quan. He was usually the typical smart person who was adept at discerning people's thoughts from their body language. Recalling the attitude and manners they displayed before and comparing it with the present, he immediately understood the problem. After hesitating, his eyes landed on Dai Xinyue. Although she was a beauty and her attitude very amiable, she was unlikely to be someone of great standing. So he went to her and asked in a low voice, "Pretty doctor, might I ask what's happening here? We, the patient's relatives, are also aware that the hospital is in a shortage of wards. But how could we suddenly be given such good wards? Even all 5 patients were completely admitted here?" Dai Xinyue lightly smiled. "My master asked me to look for the inpatient department's director." "Who's your master? Does he know us?" Su Quan's got more confused and asked again. "My master is Tang Xiu. He's also a doctor in this hospital," said Dai Xinyue. "Tang Xiu?" Su Quan was surprised and stared blankly. A disbelieving expression immediately appeared on his face as he asked, "Your master wouldn't be the same Tang Xiu who's schooling in Star City First High School, would it?" "That's right." Dai Xinyue laughed. "My master was indeed schooling in Star City First High School before. Also, he just attended this year's CET." Su Quan's lips twitched a few times. He suddenly realized that the small boy in his childhood memories seemed to be different now. Not only did he become a doctor in the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, he even had a beautiful apprentice now. Much to his surprise, even the director of this inpatient department personally arranged wards for everyone. Looking at the shocked Su Quan, Dai Xinyue chuckled and said softly, "Actually, the reason as to why you can't find wards here is mainly my master's fault. If it wasn't for him, you would have directly been admitted to the wards when you come to our Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." "Huh?" Su Quan was surprised again, asking with a confused expression, "What does it mean?" Dai Xinyue laughed. "Do you know why our hospital is in a shortage of wards now?" Su Quan nodded. "I asked around. I heard that an extraordinarily skillful divine doctor appeared here. No matter what illnesses the patients contracted, that divine doctor is able to treat them within a short period of time. So a large number of patients across the country also heard about him." "Then, what you mean. You're smart." "That's right. The person who created the current situation is my master, Tang Xiu." Dai Xinyue laughed. Su Quan's lips twitched a few times, unable to utter any words. Yet, the warmth and gratitude that filled his heart didn't diminish. He knew that if it wasn't for Tang Xiu, perhaps his fellow villagers would still be lying in the corridor. "Where's your master? Can I see him?" "I don't know where master is right now," replied Dai Xinyue. Su Quan was disappointed. Suddenly, his face flickered. He recalled that Tang Xiu's grandmother was also injured because of this incident. Since he knew about the matter with the villagers of the Sioux village, he must have made a trip to Qinghe County. Quickly, he took out his mobile and dialed Su Ben's number. "Hey, big brother Ben. Have you seen Tang Xiu?" At the Sioux village. Su Ben was chatting with Tang Xiu when he received Su Quan's call. Upon hearing his question, he said, "Yup. We're chatting right now." Su Quan immediately said, "Quickly give him your cell phone. I want to talk to him." Su Ben okayed to him and then handed the mobile to Tang Xiu, laughing, "Well, the one in the phone is looking for you." Tang Xiu smiled faintly. He and Su Ben had a good relationship because his grandmother's and Su Ben's houses were only separated by a wall, so Tang Xiu usually liked to follow Su Ben playing when he was a child. He also had a good relationship with Su Quan because they were of similar age and hang out together when they were children. Catching fishes in the river, climbing trees to scoop birds' nests. They were very close childhood friends. "Quan, you're looking for me?" Tang Xiu said with a smile. "Tang Xiu, it's really you? You also arranged the matter with Star City Chinese Medical Hospital?" Tang Xiu laughed, "Have you settled down?" "I called them before." Su Quan said with astonishment, "Damn, amazing. You kid is so amazing now. With a call from you, even the inpatient department's director was alarmed, personally arranging 2 wards for us. What is most unbelievable is that you're the mysterious divine doctor of the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." Tang Xiu teased him, Okay. You, kiddo, don't cry, alright? When will you come back from Star City? I'll be back tonight. The 5 wounded folks have their families to look after, I was only responsible to escort them. Wait for me there. It's been 2 years since I have seen you, we gotta drink a few bottles, said Su Quan. Alright. I'll be waiting for you. Having said that, Tang Xiu gave the phone back to Su Ben. Su Ben put away his mobile and laughed, "Well, you two were inseparable back then, playing and growing up together. You and Quan are the smart ones, and the 2 of you are the most kindred-spirited children in our village as well as best buddies. Big brother Ben, you're wrong. Didn't I also play with you? I still remember, we always followed behind your ass all over the place back then," said Tang Xiu. Su Ben involuntarily laughed. Being together with Tang Xiu, he smiled and laughed a lot more than he used to. Taking out the cigarette from his mouth, Tang Xiu then changed the topic, "Big brother Ben, tell me. What has happened to the village? Who's the culprit behind the troubles in our village? They are so rampant and arrogant, yet they can also get the government's approval. They seem to have a very powerful background." Chapter 244, Devastating Oppression. He's Hong Changyin, the boss of Imperial Water Royalview City Real Estate in our county. A few days ago he and the businessman from Blue City wanted to build an industrial city in our place. I don't know how he got the government's approval as well as dragged the government's participation in this, but the government issued a land requisition. Su Ben forced a smile and said. "What's this Hong Changyin's background?" asked Tang Xiu. Su Ben said, "He's Mr. Hong's nephew, the head of the county's commissioner court." Tang Xiu suddenly realized. He finally understood that Hong Changying's big influence, to even be able to buy the county hospital's doctors. But no matter the other party's background, he didn't care. Since they dared hurt his grandmother, he would definitely make them pay a bitter and painful price. Not only just Hong Changying, even that commissioner head, Mr. Hong, as well as the county hospital's leadership would have to pay a painful price. Tang Xiu took his mobile and opened a web page using 3net, searching information about this Imperial Water Royalview City real estate in Qinghe County. And soon, he quickly found Hong Changyin's personal data. "Big brother Ben, go rest. Remember to give me the silver dragon grasses tomorrow." Su Ben nodded and left. Tang Xiu took a blanket from the car and went back to his grandmother's room. He found his mother, Su Lingyun, sitting in a daze on the bed, whereas his grandmother was still asleep. "Mom, please go sleep," Tang Xiu said softly. Su Lingyun looked up. A smile emerged on her face as she gently shook her head. "I just tidied up the room next door for you and made up the bed. It's very late now, so you have to rest. I'll call you again later at breakfast." "Mom, I'm not sleepy now." "But you obviously look tired, why would you still force yourself?" "I promise you that Grandma's injuries will really be okay," said Tang Xiu. Su Lingyun hesitated before nodding, "Okay. I'll sleep for a few hours." A few minutes later, after seeing his mother sleeping on the sofa, snoring, Tang Xiu quietly walked out of the house and got into his car. He drove directly to the Qinghe County's center. Since he had already found Hong Changyin's information and also had identified his face from his photo, he decided to collect the interest tonight. At Qinghe County Hospital. Due to Hong Changyin's background, he could make the doctors in the hospital refuse to treat the wounded villagers of the Su village. He was also injured in the conflict and was hospitalized here. However, Tang Xiu didn't directly drive to Qinghe County Hospital but parked his car before the shopfront nearby the hospital. He then slipped into the nearby alley quietly, a few minutes later silently sneaking into the hospital. Tang Xiu slipped into a dark corner under the hospital building. Using his perception to scan the surroundings, he easily found the sleeping Hong Changyin in the inpatient department's ward on the 3rd floor. In another bed lied a young girl. Tang Xiu didn't take the stairs since the hospital's stairs and elevators had surveillance cameras. He moved vigorously to climb the pipeline outside the building up toward Hong Changyin's window. He quietly opened the unlatched window and entered the ward. Plop. Tang Xiu quickly moved to pinch the sleeping girl's acupuncture point on her head. Then, he punched Hong Changyin, causing him immediately fainted. As though carrying a dead dog, he shouldered him out of the window and left the hospital in the same way. When he returned to the car, he directly stuffed Hong Changyin into the trunk and drove away toward the village's foothill. Dump. As he arrived on an uncultivated land, Tang Xiu parked his car and took Hong Changyin out of the trunk, throwing him directly on the ground. Hiss. The unconscious Hong Changyin woke up due to the acute pain. When he found himself in the countryside and felt pain after being thrown to the ground, he thought that it was a dream. He rubbed the pain away, cursing and muttering, "What the hell? How would this father have this ridiculous dream? Who were the fucking idiots that said people don't feel pain in their dreams? Fuck, why aren't there several top beauties to accompany me playing?" Tang Xiu grabbed his shoulder from behind, turned him around and fiercely slapped him. After directly pumping him about 5 to 6 meters away and having blood and 2 teeth spurted out, he smashed him to the ground. "Do you still think you're dreaming now? There's no way in hell you'll find top beauties here. Rather, you'll have a lot of wild animals like wild boars and jackals. Or, you want me to find some of them for you to release your excessive hormones?" Tang Xiu walked to him as he held his shoulder and sneered. The fierce slap, the burning pain and the thick smell of blood made Hong Changyin suddenly awaken. He was not dreaming. He was sleeping in the hospital ward before, and someone had gotten him out of there. In a split second, Hong Changyin felt cold all over his body. It was as if an iceberg had fallen to his heart. Struggling to get up, he glared at Tang Xiu and snapped, "Who the fuck are you? Why am I here? Do you know who I am?" Tang Xiu sneered, "Hong Changyin, since I kidnapped you, it means that I know who you are. But I don't give a fuck. Of course, I didn't take you for a drink, but to kill you. Good will be rewarded, and evil will be put to justice. You also know this line. You have done a lot of evil, and it's time for the retribution. Now, do you have anything to say before dying?" Fear was cast on Hong Changyin's face. He paced backward a few steps and stared vigilantly as he asked Tang Xiu, "Little brother, do I know you?" Tang Xiu replied with a dull tone, "No. We haven't met before. Hong Changyin suddenly recalled something as he hastily asked, "What's your surname? Is your family name Su, from the Su village?" Tang Xiu smiled, "Hong Changyin, since you have correctly guessed who I am, then your chance to live is nil. What I fear the most are annoying troubles, fearing someone else would be inflicted later. So you can go to hell." Having said that, Tang Xiu dashed toward Hong Changyin lightning fast. Hong Changyin had just started running when Tang Xiu's fist hit his back, causing him to spurt out a mouthful of blood and fall to the ground. Tang Xiu's punch didn't claim his life, because he felt that there were a lot of ways to vent his hate in exchange for his life. Get up. It's fucking lame if you play dead. You gotta resist, struggle and howl in sorrow. Only by killing you in this way will make me happy. If I'm happy, I will make you die slowly, to taste the feeling and pleasure of being alive, which is better than dying again and again. Tang Xiu kicked his waist and shouted. In this open country field, the echo of his shout was as though a death incantation, causing Hong Changyin to despair. He suddenly regretted provoking the Su village, provoking this madman. That's right. In his eyes, Tang Xiu was a madman. Because only a lunatic would kill using brutal and cruel methods, enjoying the struggling, mirthless and sorrowful screams of his prey. B brother, why don't we make a deal? Hong Changyin struggled to stand up. Seeing that Tang Xiu didn't continue to hit him, he quickly shouted in panic. Tang Xiu deliberately made a menacing gesture, but after hearing his words, he pretended to be interested as he smiled and said, You want to make a deal? You're a dead man. What can you offer me? Do you want to use the money to buy your life? That's so fucking impossible. Today's next year will be your death anniversary. Even if the Heavenly Emperor comes, I'll still kill you. Hong Changyin's expression collapsed. But still, he cried out, No, if you don't want money, I can give you other benefits. How about you come with me? If this Changyin is successful, you'll be the same, enjoying wealth and glory with me. I can let you have everything you want in Qinghe County. Pa. Tang Xiu flashed and fiercely slapped him several times, causing his mouth to be full of blood. Then, he stopped and sneered, Do you think I'm a lunatic? A fucking idiot? If I let you go today, I probably won't have the time to enjoy those pleasures, wealth and glory. You'll probably have me killed, no? Hong Changyin did have this thought just now. But when he heard Tang Xiu's reply, he instantly despaired. Due to the fear, pained waist and acute pain all over his body, he almost cried as he replied, Be brother, then, what do you want? Tell me, I'll give it you. Tang Xiu punched him again and smashed him on the ground. He walked toward him, stepped on his head and sneered, Tell me, who's your accomplice in the county hospital who refused to treat the Su villagers? Hong Changyin instantly realized that the man in front of him was really someone from the Su village. However, he had no choice but to bow under the eaves. He was really scared, fearing that Tang Xiu would kill him in this wilderness, throwing his body to feed the wild animals. It's Zhong Tao, the county hospital's vice president. He became the vice president due to my uncle's help. If there's anything you want to know, I'll tell you. Zhong Tao? Tang Xiu memorized the name. He lifted his foot from Hong Changyin's head and snorted coldly, Humph. I won't kill today, but I have to find a way to make you remember today for the rest of your life. That's right. You said that you love women, eh? I'll just have to cut your fucking dick, so you'll be a eunuch. Hong Changyin's pupils contracted. Without him realizing, he curled up and begged, Be brother, please don't. I'm only 32 years old. I don't even have a child. Brother, please spare me and don't punish me too severely. If I become a eunuch, my family line will be cut and over. Tang Xiu sneered, Don't you still have that county's head commissioner, your uncle? He must have a son. No, he only has a daughter. Hong Changyin quickly replied. Chapter 245, Resolving the Problems with Violence. Tang Xiu trampled Hong Changyin's body, again and again, causing him to scream out repeatedly. Then he made him sit on the floor, sitting in front of him and saying with a beaming smile, I don't think the Hong family line will be cut off. Do you know why? At the moment, Hong Changyin was thoroughly terrified of Tang Xiu. Never once had he ever seen such a ruthless and lunatic person like him. He was extremely worried about his own life. However, he didn't dare to resist nor struggle. He could only squeeze out a stiff smile. Why? Because you still have your father. If I'm not wrong, your father and uncle are still alive, yes? Even if you're no longer a man, they can still find a woman to give birth to their children at their age. If there's no child conceived, then that will be your Hong family's bad luck. The more anxious Hong Changyin was, the more tears were revealed. He desperately shook his head and cried, Be brother, your hands are too noble, please spare me. Please tell me what you want, I'll do it without batting an eye. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, How's your acting level? Hong Changyin stared blankly. Then he immediately nodded happily, Good. I'll definitely be able to make you satisfied. What do you want me to perform? Call the county hospital's vice president, Zhong Tao. Tell him to come here. Do remember to tell him he must come alone. If there's anyone else, I'll immediately kill you and go to a faraway place, said Tang Xiu. Hong Changyin was stupefied. Then he nodded his head. At Qinghe County's Water Cube upscale residential area, Zhong Tao was awakened by his mobile's ringtone. He looked at the time as anger was revealed on his face. He picked up the phone and saw a strange number. He hesitated a moment before answering it. He then asked with a heavy tone, Zhong Tao speaking, Who's this? It's me, Hong Changyin. Hong Changyin's voice came from the mobile. Zhong Tao replied with a puzzled expression, Boss Hong, it's very late now. Is there something you need? Boss Zhong, do you remember about the matter I asked your help with today? It caused big trouble. I can't go to Qinghe County now, so you have to prepare yourself. Don't ask too many questions. In short, I've offended a great figure. And I also want to apologize to you. Perhaps you might be implicated by me. What do you mean? Zhong Tao's drowsiness vanished in an instant. He suddenly jumped out of the bed and quickly asked, Boss Hong, what has happened exactly? Hong Changyin laughed bitterly, the specific circumstances can't be talked on the phone. In short, even my uncle won't be able to help me, lest implicate him. So your dream to become president of the county hospital might be crushed. Perhaps, you'll also be thrown into jail. Alas, this is my mistake. If I have a chance next life, I'll pay you back. Having said that, he directly hung up the phone. Zhong Tao was struck dumb and tongue-tied as he listened to the muted sound of his mobile. His eyes blinked and then dialed the inpatient department's director, speaking with a heavy tone, Zhong Tao here. Is Boss Hong Changyin still in his ward? Please wait a bit. A few minutes later, the caller was back. Yes? Is Boss Hong still there? Zhong Tao asked again with a heavy tone. He isn't there, only his girlfriend is sleeping in the ward, the voice came again. In this split second, Zhong Tang felt a chill down to his spine. He desperately wanted to figure out what really happened, so he called the number that called him before. A few seconds later, his call was picked up. Boss Hong, please tell me clearly. What the hell is going on here? I've to discard this number immediately, so don't call me again, said Hong Changyin. Wait. Zhong Tao shouted, Boss Hong, where are you now? I'll come over immediately. Hong Changyin bitterly replied, I just came out from the Sioux village and am preparing to hide in the mountain next to the village first until tomorrow morning. Then I'll be away from this place as fast as possible. Wait for me, I'll go there immediately, shouted Zhong Tao. Hong Changyin didn't hang up the phone. After staying silent for a minute, he then slowly said, President Zhong, I trust you won't betray me. Since you want to know the big trouble this matter has caused, then seize the time. I'm still on the mountain foot next to the Sioux village. Also, remember. You must make sure that nobody except you know where I am. And don't bring anyone with you. Understood. Zhong Tao complied. He hung up the phone and got dressed in a hurry, grabbing his car key and rushing out. At the mountain foot next to Sioux village, Tang Shou patted Hong Changyin's swollen cheek and praised, Damn, your acting skills are really good. It looks like your pitiful begging before, to spare your life, was also fake, eh? Hong Changyin's pupils contracted. He desperately shook his head, No, it wasn't. Absolutely not. Tang Shou thought for a moment and then said slowly, Words can't be trusted. Prove it to me. How I should prove it to you, asked Hong Changyin. Break one of your legs. Tang Shou said indifferently. What? Hong Changyin trembled as panic covered his face. Tang Shou replied lightly, If you're afraid to do it yourself, I'll help you. A good trait of mine is that I love to help others. Hong Changyin replied with a shivering voice, Bibi brother, please spare me. If you break my leg, I'll be crippled for life. You're a great man, please forgive me this time. I won't dare to bully others due to my status, and I also won't do bad deeds again later. I promise you that I'll immediately shy away from you when I come across you in the future. Tang Shou shook his head, I'll let you live this night, but you won't live past dawn. I'm giving you the choice to break your leg, but you can never leave safely if you don't do so. This is your last chance to live. If you won't take it, it's your choice. I give you a minute. If you don't act within this time, you'll enjoy your fucking life in hell. Hong Changyin cast a glance at Tang Shou's grim expression. The despair in his heart grew thicker. In his mind, Tang Shou was a devil, a vicious and ruthless demon. He didn't want to die. He was rich and had a good life, he could live a squandering life for decades. Okay, I'll break it. Hong Changyin glanced around quickly. As he saw a stone a few meters away, he immediately crawled over, lifted it up and fiercely smashed his calf. You are. A piercing and miserable scream howled, echoing at the mountain foot. Tang Shou nodded in satisfaction. His grandmother's leg was fractured. If not for his superb medical skill, she would likely to have a sequela. Even if she was healed, she would even become a cripple. Therefore, he must make Hong Changyin who did the evil deed to taste how it felt to become a cripple. However, Tang Shou hated Hong Changyin's pained and anguished scream. He walked toward him, held his thigh and quickly pressed several acupoints in his calf. Suddenly, Hong Changyin's pitiful scream came to halt. Why, doesn't it hurt? Hong Changyin's face twisted, slowly coming back to normal. He was dumbfoundedly looking at his blood-covered leg. It was obviously broken. He then looked up at Tang Shou with disbelief. It didn't hurt. Not even a little bit of pain could be felt now. If not for the blood on his calf, he would have thought that he was dreaming. There are things called acupoints in this world's kung fu. I sealed the acupoints on your thigh injury. One is to help stop your bleeding, and the other is to make the pain disappear. So if you dare to let out another howling ghost again, I'll stitch your mouth, said Tang Shou indifferently. Hong Changyin looked at him with disbelief, as horror and shock overwhelming his eyes. He replied, You know acupoints? Tang Shou coldly glanced at him but didn't answer. He needed to calm his mind and wait for the county hospital's vice president, Zhong Tao, to arrive. Hong Changyin was admittedly hateful, but Zhong Tao was even more disgusting. He was a hospital doctor as well as had a good standing as a hospital's leader, yet he turned out to make things worse for the patients and colluded in evil deeds with villains. If he didn't make him pay, then who? 20 minutes later. A Volkswagen sedan slowly parked nearby the Land Rover as Zhong Tao got off from the driver's seat. He then looked around and saw that nobody was here. Just as he walked a few steps forward, a ghostly figure silently appeared behind him, punching his head, making him faint. Tang Xiu grabbed his hands and brought him to a place 100 meters away as he stopped and put him down in front of Hong Changyin, who was sitting exhausted on the ground. He said indifferently, "Wake him up. And you better smash his leg with a stone." Hong Changyin hesitated for a moment before following Tang Xiu's order. He took the stone and fiercely smashed Zhong Tao's left leg. The fractured bone produced great pain, causing Zhong Tao to wake up from his stupor. He let out a pig-like scream, echoing in the wilderness. Hong Changyin. Zhong Tao could only see starlight and then looked at Hong Changyin, who was sitting exhausted in front him. Disbelief suffused in his eyes since Hong Changyin's appearance at the moment was really very miserable. Hong Changyin bitterly said, "I'm sorry, Vice President Zhong." Zhong Tao stared at him blankly. After several seconds later, only then did he realize that someone else was behind him. He turned and looked at Tang Xiu as his expression suddenly changed. "You're Zhong Tao, yes? The Vice President of Qinghe County Hospital? You're a doctor, yet you cling to a powerful official to cause misfortune for the patients. You're pretty good." Tang Xiu came before him and spoke without being salty nor insipid. Zhong Tao exclaimed involuntarily, "Who are you?" Tang Xiu sneered, "Who am I? I'm the executioner who enforces justice on behalf of heaven. A butcher who punishes evil and upholds justice. You don't need to blame Hong Changyin. It is I who forced him to deceive you. Because if he didn't, he would die today. And your fate probably won't be much better than his."